boy, have I chosen the best possible moment to start a music artist career. Well, the music market is oversaturated and is getting more so by the minute with all the stuff that's being pushed out there daily. But with 44% of all new uploads being AI generated, discoverability for independent artists has hit an all-time low after being buried well beneath the ocean bed even before AI, to be honest. And yet, here I am, starting my own YouTube channel as a music artist and planning to release an EP in 2026. This does sound hopeless, and you'd have to be pretty reckless, fun unintended, to be doing all of this, because it's all a fruitless and pointless burnout waiting to happen. Wow. Hi, I'm Nimarika. I'm the singer-songwriter who's trying to make it look like it's all fine. In this video, we're trying to see how AI has affected music over the past few years and analyze whether it still makes sense to be making music as a human being in 2026. That does sound quite weird when you say it out loud. So, am I making the worst time investment of my life? Besides spending years studying political science in Belarus, that is. We'll see about that in a bit, and just like any conversation, this one cannot start with anything else but AI. Let's get into it. Right around January, there was a lot of fuss and noise around AI artists and their success on streaming platforms. Some of my friends were complaining how many AI artists' tracks they are now exposed to, and people were mainly negative about AI artists and also astonished at how successful they were with millions or at least hundreds of thousands of monthly listeners and streams. But I wanted to actually take a look whether it's all still the case, whether it's still popular, whether they are boasting these numbers, whether they are growing still now in June. And I was surprised to see that their numbers dropped significantly. And now I invite you to take a quick look at how successful they are doing right now. So Kyla Cross and Sienna Rose, 2.1 million and 3 million monthly listeners in their Spotify profiles in January 2026. And if we take a look at now, which is the end of June 2026, Kyla Cross is down to 266,000, and Sienna Rose is down to 713k monthly listeners. And don't get me wrong, that's still quite a bit, but it's not in the millions anymore for both of them, and it's interesting. And what's even more interesting is that their numbers are dropping still, which I saw when editing the video in early July. If we take a look at the Velvet Sundown, the band that I also was introduced to at some point as an example of an AI artist, in June 2025, so a year ago, their monthly listener number was around 474k. Now, a year later, it's 121k. It is also quite a massive drop. And this got me curious. Was the success of AI artists mostly built around the hype that people was it all a rage bait? Like, I mean, it wasn't meant to be, but maybe this curious effect can be somehow attributed to the fact that when those artists released their music online, people started listening to it. It was AI, and they couldn't believe it, and they shared it with their friends, and their friends shared it with some more people, and this kept snowballing and basically attracted all of this attention to these AI artists. And now everyone who was interested in listening to it has already checked it out, and obviously some audience stuck, but not all of it. So something tells me it wasn't Your regular case of organic, explosive but organic growth for a music artist. And I have to say that this trend is supported by data coming from streaming platforms. Namely, Apple Music says that only 1% of all streams is attributed to AI generated music. There it is. There it is. Not everything is that bad. I feel like I can breathe more freely now that I know that AI artists are not making up such a huge share of monthly streams. But it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy, because now, with 100,000 new uploads to streaming platforms daily, and that includes everything: human written, AI generated, nature sounds, white noise, you name it. The market is all obviously oversaturated, and that means that it's not that easy to attract attention to a music artist and to build a fan base these days. It seems like it was never easy. It's just now difficult in a different way. According to a market study by Illuminate, for the year of 2025, independent distribution was 96% of the market. Only the remaining 4% or so of all music uploads, or not only music uploads, was done through a label. For my whole life, I thought that it was the other way around. Like 80% of the market is taken up by labels, and maybe the remaining 20 is the independent artists. But it's the other way around, apparently. But you have to understand that independent distribution does not mean that it's only indie artists like me or like people who are way more successful. It can be also a big name that just chose independent distribution for that specific release, as opposed to their other tracks that they produced and released with a major label. So it's not exactly like small artists versus big artists, but still, independent distribution is very, very strong. And yeah, now we are living in a very noisy environment in all sorts of sense. I can't say that pirating basically caused all this mess, but it is a curious chain of reactions. People pirated music. It was a major blow to major labels. They started to lay people off, and a lot of really experienced music market savvy people started establishing their own companies, developing new artists, and this whole thing at some point evolved into a market that is dominated by independent distribution rather than label distribution. Interesting how that turned out. It is also interesting to see that labels now prefer to sign artists at a much later stage. I don't know, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe more. It would be easier to sign a deal with a label while you're still not really that big. Nowadays, labels prefer to wait for an artist to develop themselves, and when they already have something, some sort of a product, some sort of a brand, and some sort of a following, they swoop in with a deal. And it is interesting because now you have to do all the work yourself. You have to put out a lot of content to promote yourself as a music artist and your music, for a record label to come in at a later stage and sign a deal with you. And guess what happens after that? They keep telling you that you need to produce more content. Fantastic. I'm not saying that a deal with a record label is bad or anything. Everyone decides for themselves. I'm just saying that it's all about content. Before a deal, after a deal, it's all about content. Guess why I'm here? Like in any other sphere, when you're only starting out, there are a couple of things that you can do that could boost you and propel you to a functionally new level. That used to be radio, media, late night shows, and playlists. But now it's not the main contributor to success anymore. All of these things help quite a bit, but they are not as accessible to, or like at all accessible to the smaller music artists, and I can understand why. My uneducated guess would be the volume. There are so many artists out there right now that nobody has the resources to go through tons and tons and tons of music artists to find the gems that you would love to feature on your show, in your article, or in your playlist. Only artists that have already done enough and have already made waves are being picked up by late night shows, radio, media, playlists. It is a much safer bet. From a playlister perspective, I would like to put something on my playlist that people already like so that they enjoy it more. We've been talking, and most of it was me. And I guess it's time to come to a conclusion, and you probably already have a feeling what kind of a conclusion I'm going to draw here, but let's hear it anyway. AI. It does let so many more players onto the field that was already crowded and there was no place for an apple to fall. So it's fantastic and bad at the same time. But music consumption patterns have not changed drastically towards AI, and we have seen so far that people steer away from it. So that makes me think that AI music is not going to fully replace the good old ways of making music. At least there's still some time before that happens. And even if it gets more and more popular, because it gets just that much better and better, it will hurt, but it won't kill. Because to me, this whole thing is about the sacred process of creating music. It's about putting all of your trauma, irritation, anger, despair, happiness, boredom, maybe some other positive things like happiness, into words and into melodies, and sharing that with other people, because connection is also very important there. Yeah, there's that. Discoverability, on the other hand, this is where I am fucked. Me and all the other new artists out there, we're all fucked collectively. But then again, this is why I'm starting this channel, to give myself a chance, a proper, a good, or a chance to build a community, grow it, and share my work with. And hopefully that'll work. And this whole thing brings me to the well-known YouTube mantra, so get ready. It's my first time doing it. Exciting. If you enjoyed this video, consider giving it a like, a comment, and a share. And if you want to see if a music artist can still grow in all of this mess, consider subscribing. Or don't. It's a free world, maybe somewhere sort of ish.